The dolphin house experiment was an absolutely insane and messed up attempt to try to speak and communicate with dolphins. This guy, John Lilly, thought that he could literally teach dolphins to speak English. And he got funding from NASA to build a huge villa on the island of St. Thomas, and he got 3 dolphins for the experiments: Peter, Pamela, and Sissy. They were from Marine Studios and had been in the movie Flipper. After a while, 22-year-old Margaret Howe showed up at the house wanting to work with the dolphins. She was supposed to try to encourage the dolphins to mimic human speech, and she started focusing on Peter because he hadn't had any training in mimicking human speech. She would be like, 1, 2, 3, and Peter would be like, Peter was making some sort of progress, but the work stalled out. Margaret was like, we leave every night, and that's a lot of interaction and observation that we're missing out on. So she proposed that they plaster everything on the top floor and flood it with waist-high water, and she would live up there with Peter. And over the next months, she lived and stayed in the house. She had a desk hanging from the ceiling, a stove, a telephone, and slept on a foam mattress. Meanwhile, Lilly started getting really into psychedelics. He was like a full-blown hippie guru guy. And he had a bunch of celebrity friends like Jeff Bridges standing up over there. Back at the house, Peter was getting really randy and rubbing up on Margaret and not paying attention to her lessons anymore. So Margaret started giving him handies so they could get back to focusing on lessons. She said it was just easier to incorporate that and let it happen, and there's a longer quote from her about it if you want to pause to read it. Meanwhile, Lilly, obsessed with acid, decided that he was going to try to inject the dolphins with it. Like, he thought that if he took some and gave some to the dolphins, both their minds would be more open and they'd be more able to communicate with each other. To her credit, Margaret was like, fuck that, and wouldn't let him inject Peter. So while they were upstairs, he went into the experiment downstairs and injected Pam and Sissy with 200 micrograms apiece. Motherfucker even took a jackhammer to the side of their tank to try to get a reaction out of them while they were dosed. Soon their funding was cut, and the dolphins were moved to small, chlorine-filled tanks in Florida, and Peter killed himself. Dolphins have to consciously think about breathing, and so Peter just sank himself to the bottom of the tank and held his breath till he was gone.